The drifting ship the Vanguard was halfway through its long cargo run when the signal came. A faint, broken transmission crackled over the comm. "Anyone, please. They're not human anymore. We can't." The voice dissolved into static. Captain Elias Varon stood from his chair. "Trace it," he ordered. The navigator, Kara, tapped quickly at her console. "It's coming from the Aurora, a science vessel, last logged 2 months ago. Deep in the dead zone, a stretch of empty space where no one liked to travel. No trade routes, no stations, no signals, just cold, black void." Elias hesitated for a moment. Responding meant changing course and risking his crew, but the sound of that terrified voice left him no choice. "Set a course," he said. The Vanguard turned toward the darkness. Hours later, the Aurora appeared on sensors. It drifted in space, spinning slowly, no running lights, no engine power. Its white hull was scarred with long burn marks. Windows were dark. It looked like a floating tomb. They hailed it on every channel. No answer. Kara scanned for life signs. "Nothing," she said. Elias narrowed his eyes. "That doesn't mean no one's alive. Gear up." The boarding team, Elias, Kara, Engineer Marlowe, and Security Chief Dane, crossed the gap in a small shuttle. Their boots clanged against the Aurora's outer hull as they entered through a damaged airlock. Inside, the smell hit them first, a heavy, metallic stench, mixed with something sour. The corridor was cold, lit only by flickering emergency lights. Panels hung from the ceiling. Cables dangled like dead vines. Dried smears of something dark streaked the walls. They moved forward slowly, rifles raised. The silence was complete, not even the hum of life support. It felt like the ship itself was holding its breath. Marlowe stopped at a bulkhead. "Claw marks," he muttered, deep grooves cut into the metal, each mark wide and ragged. No tool would make something like that. In the mess hall, overturned chairs and broken trays littered the floor. Plates of dried food sat untouched. It was as if the crew had fled in the middle of eating. Elias checked his wrist scanner, still no life signs, but his gut told him they weren't alone. The medbay was worse. Cabinets smashed open. Vials broken on the floor. In the corner, a security terminal blinked with a red light. Kara powered it up. The last recorded footage filled the screen. It showed the medbay full of people, scientists and crew. They looked sick, sweating, shaking. A doctor tried to calm them. Then one of the patients screamed and collapsed. When he stood again, his skin was pale gray, his eyes glowing faint blue. He lunged at the doctor. Biting into his neck, chaos erupted. Others began to change, their movements jerky at first, then unnaturally fast. Their mouths opened wider than human jaws should. The video ended with the camera falling sideways and static filling the feed. Kara's voice was tight. "What happened to them?" Marlowe shook his head. "Not disease. Something else. Something inside them." Elias was about to speak when a sound cut through the silence. A slow, dragging step somewhere down the corridor. Another step. Then a faint wet sound, like something dripping. The team froze. Dane swung his rifle toward the sound. "Movement," he whispered, from the shadows at the far end. Something emerged. It had the shape of a human, but its skin was gray and torn. Its eyes glowed faintly. Its mouth hung open. When it saw them, it tilted its head in a jerky, unnatural motion. Then it began to move slowly at first, dragging one leg, until it broke into a sudden, unnatural sprint. Its mouth opened wider, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. The crew fired, and the sound of gunshots echoed through the dead ship. The first attack, the first burst of rifle fire echoed through the Aurora's empty corridors. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Its pale skin tore where the shots hit, revealing something dark and pulsing underneath. Instead of blood, a thick black fluid spilled out, steaming as it touched the floor. "Again!" Dane shouted, firing a second volley. This time the thing stumbled back, but only for a moment. With a sickening twist of its body, it lunged forward again. It was fast. Too fast. Elias stepped forward, leveling his sidearm. A single shot cracked through the air. The round hit the creature's head. It collapsed instantly, falling to the floor with a wet thud. The silence that followed was deafening. Marlowe moved closer, scanning it with his wrist device. "It's not human," he said, voice low. Kara glanced down at the corpse. "It was human," she replied. Elias crouched next to it. "What do you mean?" Marlowe tapped the scanner. "This isn't decay, it's infestation. Something's living inside the body, controlling it like a puppet." He pointed at the torn skin where the shots had hit. Tiny black tendrils twitched inside the wound. curling back into the flesh as if hiding from the light. Kara's face went pale. What about the voice we heard on the distress call? What if they're all like this now? Before anyone could answer, a low sound echoed through the corridor, not footsteps this time, breathing, heavy and wet. The team turned toward the medbay door, weapons raised. 3 more figures stepped into view. Their movements were strange, jerking between slow shuffles and sudden bursts of speed. All had glowing eyes and torn skin. One still wore a science officer's uniform, its badge soaked in dark fluid. Back to the shuttle, now, Elias ordered. They began to retreat, firing in short bursts. The creatures didn't slow down. One leaped over a fallen table, landing almost on top of Dane. He shoved it back with the butt of his rifle. The alien zombie snarled, teeth snapping. Just inches from his face, Kara fired, the blast hitting it square in the head. It dropped instantly, but the others kept coming, their eyes fixed on the humans. The team reached the airlock. Elias slapped the control panel. The inner door slid open, but before they could get inside, a loud metallic clang rang out from the cargo bay nearby. Something was moving inside, not shuffling, running. The sound of claws on metal echoed through the hallway. It was heavier, faster than the others. Dane looked at Elias. That doesn't sound like the same thing. Elias tightened his grip on his pistol. No, it doesn't. The corridor shook as something slammed into the wall from the other side. The impact left a dent in the metal. Then it hit again harder. Whatever was in there wanted out, and the thin bulkhead wouldn't hold for long. The alien zombies stopped moving. They stood completely still, heads tilting toward the noise. Then, without warning, they turned and ran away from the humans. Deeper into the ship, Kara stared after them. Why are they running? Marlowe's voice was barely a whisper. Because something worse is coming. The wall gave way with a deafening crack. A massive shape pushed through. Its body was twisted and swollen, its limbs too long. The glowing eyes were brighter, and its jaw unhinged wider than any human mouth could. It let out a scream that rattled the deck plates. Elias didn't need to give the order. The team fired everything they had. Because whatever this was, they couldn't let it get close. The infection spreads. The creature didn't go down easy. Even with every rifle and pistol firing, it pushed forward. Bullets tore through its flesh. But the black fluid inside seemed to knit the wounds together. It moved like something that had forgotten pain. Dane switched to his shotgun. The blast hit the creature's chest at point-blank range. This time it stumbled, crashing into a bulkhead. Elias took the chance, aimed for its head, and fired. The glowing eyes went dark, and the body slumped to the floor. Everyone, back to the shuttle. Elias ordered. They moved quickly. Weapons up. No more creatures followed. The corridor stayed silent except for the hum of their boots against the deck. Once inside the shuttle, they sealed the airlock and detached from the Aurora. The view of the drifting ship shrank on the screen. Kara exhaled. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't working alone. Marlowe was already scanning the air inside the shuttle. His face turned grim. "We've got spores," he said. Tiny black motes floated in the air, too small to see without a sensor. They're from the parasite. It's how it spreads. Anyone who breathes them in won't stay themselves for long. The crew froze. Dane checked his helmet seal. "We were in suits," he said. Marlowe shook his head. "Not the whole time. When we checked the medbay, we had our helmets off." A heavy silence filled the shuttle. Elias clenched his jaw. "Then we don't have much time." They docked with the Vanguard. Elias ordered a full decontamination. Every surface was scrubbed, every vent flushed. But hours later, Kara came to the bridge, her face pale. "It started," she whispered. In the cargo hold, one of the crew, a young tech named Hollis, sat against the wall, shivering. His skin was pale, his eyes glowing faintly. Dark veins crawled under his skin like moving worms. When Elias approached, Hollis looked up slowly. "I can hear them," he said in a voice that wasn't fully his own. "They're coming for you." Captain Hollis lunged. Dane tackled him, slamming him to the deck. It took 3 men to hold him down. Marlowe injected a sedative, but even then, Hollis fought with inhuman strength until he finally went limp. Elias looked at his crew. "If the parasite is on this ship, it's already too late to run." Kara's hands trembled as she spoke. "Then what do we do?" Marlowe pulled up the scans of the parasite. The readings showed something terrifying. The spores could survive in vacuum for years. They didn't need air, food or heat. "They can travel anywhere," he said. "Once they've marked a species, they will hunt it until it's gone." Elias stood silent. Staring at the starfield outside the viewport, the parasite had chosen humans. That meant no world, no station, no colony was safe. Suddenly, an alarm blared. A proximity warning flashed on the screen. Kara checked the sensors. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's the Aurora. It's moving. The science ship, which had been drifting dead in space, was now turning toward them. No engine heat, no power signatures, but it was moving, and in the dark windows along its side, faint blue lights began to glow. Elias gripped the railing. They're not just coming. They already know where we are. The final escape. The Aurora drifted closer. No thrusters fired. No engines glowed. It moved like something being pulled by an invisible hand, and every dark window now flickered with that same eerie blue light. Kara's voice shook. Captain, they're all awake in there. Elias didn't look away from the view. They're not awake. They're being driven. On the bridge, Dane gripped his rifle. If that thing gets close, we're done. Marlowe spoke quickly. The parasite wants hosts. It won't stop. The only way to end this is to destroy both ships. The crew stared at him. You're saying, blow ourselves up? Kara asked. Marlowe nodded. If the Aurora follows us to any human world, millions will die. We can't risk it. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He hated it, but deep down, he knew Marlowe was right. Prep the overload, he ordered. We take the Aurora with us. They moved fast, planting demolition charges along the Vanguard's reactor. At the same time, they sent a remote shuttle toward the Aurora, towing a cable of explosives. If everything worked, both ships would go up at the same time. From the bridge, Elias watched the shuttle drift toward the Aurora. The science vessel loomed larger and larger. Shapes moved behind the glass. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Some pressed their faces against the windows, pale and grinning. Others slammed their hands against the glass, like they wanted to claw their way out. Shuttles in position, Kara reported. Elias gave the order. Light it. A deep rumble shook the Vanguard as the charges armed. For a few heartbeats, everything was silent. Then the Aurora exploded, a blinding flash tearing it apart. The shockwave hit the Vanguard. A second blast followed as their own reactor went critical. Metal screamed. Lights flared. Elias felt himself thrown from his chair. When he opened his eyes, alarms were screaming. Smoke filled the bridge. Half the crew were gone, the rest scrambling for the escape pods. Move, Elias shouted. They ran for the pod bay, the ship groaning around them. Fire rolled down the corridor, heat blistering the walls. Dane shoved Kara into the first pod, then climbed in after her. Marlowe took the second. Elias dove into the last one, slamming the hatch shut. Through the small viewport, he saw the Vanguard split apart. The wreckage drifted in the cold dark, slowly burning out. Elias sat back, breathing hard. They had done it. The parasite was gone. Or so he thought. Hours later, as his pod floated alone between the stars, a faint shape appeared ahead. It was another pod, drifting toward him. He leaned forward, trying to see inside. A pale face stared back at him. Its eyes glowed blue. Its mouth curved into a slow, unnatural smile. Elias felt the blood drain from his face. The cum crackled, and in a voice that was not human, it whispered, "You can't run, Captain. We are already everywhere."